So we'll just start with what the reflexes are. Okay. And what the reflexes are, if that's human development, this pyramid here, and we've got all these rows of bricks, right? And we have chemistry, you know. Maybe we've got chemistry down here. The building blocks of what we are, you know, the minerals and all the different things that make us up. The parts of our bodies, that's pretty deep down there. Almost as deep down there, or maybe right along with them, are the reflexes. Because the reflexes are the way we move. And all of these movements are predetermined, basically. They're universal, they're instinctual, and they're programmed in the back brain. So everybody put your hand here. You feel back here. That's where the reflexes are. And we all start out with the exact same movement vocabulary. There's nothing individual about any of us at this level. It's like starting out with the same number of chromosomes and genes. It's a good thing, you know, to have the reflexes in place. Because when we are babies, we need to survive, and we haven't learned anything yet, right? We just come in, and we need to be able to move. We need to be able to get out of the womb. We need to be able to suck. We need to be able to breathe. We need to be able to crawl. We need to be able to do all the things we need to do to survive, and we need to do these things completely instinctually and automatically. And put your hands back here again. I don't want to. That part of the brain is where those kinds of automatic functions are lodged. So it's very important. As we grow and change, these movements start to myelinate and create neural nets that go all the way through the rest of our brain. So if you want to sort of feel around, you know, just sort of feel here's the back of the brain, and you kind of make these neural nets going all over your head. And they start back here with the survival responses, and then as they go to different parts of the brain and connect all these different parts of the brain, we start having more choices about our movements. Because originally all the movements are reflexive. We have no choice about them. That's what a reflex is, right? The doctor hits your knee with a hammer and your foot goes out. You don't have any choice about that. And that's a good thing, because we need those reflexes. But as we grow and change, we need to start getting some movement choices in gear, because, for instance, when we're nursing and going like this with our mouths, our hands are going like this too. And you've all seen that with cats, right? That's what they're doing. And so that's a really good thing for a baby. It's not a really good thing for me if I'm trying to write on the board with my hands and my tongue is going out. Okay. How many of you have seen children or adults even, yes, doing that? And you might say, okay, well, what's the problem with that? You know, so they stick their tongue out when they write. What's the big deal? The problem is there's many aspects to why it's a problem. One reason that it's a problem is that anytime a reflex is active, you're at least partly in a survival mode, which means you're in stress, because the reflexes come back under stress. And so when you're in stress, you aren't as happy as you could be. You aren't functioning at your best. And another reason is that reflexes are packages of movements that use a lot of different muscles. So if I just want to move my hand and I have to move my mouth too, and maybe I don't want to, and I inhibit that movement, then there's all this stress in the system. So a lot of my brain power and my energy is either involved in using muscles I don't really need to do to perform things I don't really need to do, because nobody really needs their tongue to write, right? And also, if I try and stop that from happening, I'm using up a lot of energy stopping that from happening. And all of that is inhibiting the flow of my hand. So usually people who have their tongue out between their teeth aren't finding handwriting a very easy thing to do, because they don't have the independence. They aren't able to just move their hand without sticking their tongue out. So there are dozens of these kinds of reflexes. That particular one is called the Babkin palmamental reflex. and it's in your handout, and we'll talk about that in a bit. So that's one reason it's important to integrate the reflexes. Now, the reflexes will return under stress. I mean, how many of you have been driving in traffic and you find your tongue between your teeth? Does anyone do that? Your mom does? And, you know, the Babkin palmamental reflex is stimulated by symmetrical pressure on the palms. So it's kind of natural if you've got your palms on the steering wheel and you're under some stress, which who isn't in traffic, your tongue comes out. Another reflex is called the asymmetrical tonic neck reflex. That's asymmetrical means, of course, one-sided, and moving your neck to one side. So that reflex looks kind of like this. You look to one side and your arm and shoulder go out. There's some other parts of it too, but this is the part you really notice. So again, you're driving, right? Everybody get your steering wheel going. You put your hands on there. Now, if this reflex is active, I look to one side, my arm and shoulder go out. What happens to my car? Yeah, well, we hope it doesn't crash, but at least it goes a little to one side, right? We don't want to crash into anybody else. But, you know, I mean, I've done that. How many people haven't done that? That's because you're under stress, your reflexes are getting activated, and you don't have the independence that you need. You aren't able to move your head without moving your arms too. So reflex integration is a very good thing to do because it allows us freedom of movement and choice. And a lot of times what we call learning difficulties or disabilities or sensory issues, they're always tied up in reflexes, because when those kinds of issues are present, the system is under stress, the brain is at least partially in a survival mode, and so the reflexes are active, and the child or the adult doesn't have choice about our movements. What we really want is choice, right? We want to be able to do what we need to do with freedom. And when we're operating in a reflexive mode, we don't have that freedom.